Hello and welcome to a special Grid Live NASCAR weekend preview, Throwback edition, surprising everyone with our old 2021 studio here. I'm Joe Samdiego. With me we have Tanner Smith from the Pit Box Press. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, the show, Mark, Robin, David, Matthew for investing in the Grid Network each and every month. You too can invest in the Grid Network through Patreon and also Buy Me Coffee, YouTube Super Chat, and we'll thank you on the air as we see the Super Chats come in on the air. This is the first time I've done that, Tanner, where the music has repeated, so I'm surprised. All these years I've never done that. The throwback music came back. We might as well throw it back for a second time, have them play this old song.
Needed an encore.
An encore. Let's get started with one show that the drivers are going to be happy there is no encore Darlington. They're hoping there is no overtime because Darlington, the Goodyear 400, the track too tough to tame, and of course with all the history, just about the perfect venue for the throwback weekend. Plenty of historic moments in the Lady in Black. Fastest way around this track, that high lane right next to a wall. The racing surface is so narrow. Going side by side, entering turn one. Oh man, it's always tense. Plus, tire wear, that is going to be a big issue. This track has such an abrasive surface overall. So far in 2025, do you believe this is the most difficult track that all the drivers are going to be facing? And do you think there's going to be more on the driver or the car that's going to be making the difference between winning and not getting that win?
Well, it kind of depends on how the race itself plays out. As I often like to mention, the key to a Darlington victory is making sure you have the freshest set of tires at the very end of the race. So, as we saw last year, that helped propel Kyle Busch from, I believe, outside the top 15, but still inside the top 20, all the way up to a runner-up finish in the Southern 500 last fall. So it's more a matter of how the race itself plays out and how you and your crew chief are able to strategize around it. And obviously, I think that we'll see some of the best and brightest in the sport really show up towards the end of this event. Drivers that are more known for taking care of their equipment and overall having a bit better of a time finding the handle on their car. I think those will be the drivers we see closer to the front. So while I do think having a great car and being a great driver are certainly extremely integral to winning this race, I almost think having a great crew chief might actually be what sets everything apart.
Crew chief just as important, chasing the handling of that car, because as J-Dog says, high lane is the best lane. You want to have that car handling as good as possible because it amazed me, Tanner. I remember the comment from Shane Van Gisbergen last year where he was talking about it's so different to try to drive up against the wall and let that pocket of air be there to sort of just prevent you from touching the walls. Like, that is some amazing physics stats going on right there. You definitely want to have a good handling car. Best thing you could at this track. Darlington is just, I love it. The driver has to be good. The crew chief has to be on top of it. The pit crew, it's 400 miles, but it's still going to be plenty of pit stops because those tires are just going to be grading lap after lap after lap. A lot of fun at this track. And of course, Darlington Raceway, Goodyear 400 Sunday last year. This race is mostly remembered for what happened at the finish involving Chris Buescher and Tyler Reddick. The two of them racing hard for the lead. Tyler Reddick made contact. Both of them were out of contention. This allowed Brad Keselowski to go out there, steal a win from his teammate and Tyler Reddick. But now this year, Reddick winless. Of course, last year at Darlington, he already had a win. That's what Chris Buescher was pointing at his sticker, saying, I don't have one of those yet. Sadly, his sticker came after the playoffs started. He missed it all. Keselowski, he used that win to get into playoffs, but winless this year and way behind the pace, it seems, compared to Reddick and Busher. Now that none of them have won so far this year, do you see Reddick, Busher, or Keselowski as potential contenders for the win?
With the setup that the 45 team came with last year, they dominated that event. And I think with everything that happened towards the end of that event, that kind of got lost. I believe Reddick led somewhere in the realm of over 200 laps or slightly less than that, which in a 293 lap event is an exceptional domination. And it makes sense why he made such a robust move that obviously went awry on Chris Buescher and ruined both of their races. Reddick was trying to capitalize on the momentum that he had built from that Talladega victory and unfortunately wasn't able to sustain that success through the end of the Darlington race and thus finished, I believe, 29th or 30th, which really not an optimal result for that squad. So as far as RFK goes, I kind of threw this out there on Monday on Grid Encore that it seems that they have almost prioritized the 60 car over the 6 car this year in terms of helping that third team kind of get up to speed while you leave Brad to his own devices to kind of hammer out the more wrinkled parts that they have. And it seems that the 6 is probably a little bit further from race winning contention than they've been in some time. So I would definitely look for Buescher in typical 17 team fashion to not get a single stage point, but keep hammering away at that car throughout the race and ultimately maybe be in the mix for a top 5, maybe a top 10 there towards the end of the event. That just seems to be the way that team functions. But out of those 3, I would say the 45 teams got the strongest shot. They had speed there in the fall, and I think had Tyler Reddick not been so under the weather, they might have had a better performance through the evening, but obviously we'll never know. So out of those 3, definitely think the 45 teams got the strongest shot. They had an exceptional car last year. They just didn't come away with the victory. But the 6 car, they've been kind of lagging behind, so I'm not really going to rate them very highly for this race. But the 17, they proved last year that they can rise to the occasion late in the event and compete for the win. So I wouldn't be surprised if they replicated that again this year.
In the chat room, I think there'll be a battle in the last 15 laps at least for the win.
Absolutely.
The battle for the win, that was pretty epic last year. It's very unfortunate for how it turned out for, of course, Reddick and Buescher. Reddick, I think, has to be one of the favorites for this race going there. Brad Keselowski is interesting. I feel if he gets a top 10 finish, that has to feel good. He seems to have some good top 10 finishes at this track. I think this could be a good break for him to get something positive going because that 6 car, as you said, it just seems to be missing. The 60 seems to be carrying a lot of it, which is a bit of a surprise. And I'm really curious how that team's going to do with Ryan Preece behind the wheel in the 60. The 17, I could see in the top 10. I'm not sold it'll be a winning contender, but I will be honest. I feel Chris Buescher last year, some of the races, it was just he's there. You have to go through him to get the win. Kansas comes to mind, Darlington. If he has that kind of a car and shows up, he's going to be hard to beat. But I think you got to be looking at Reddick, Keselowski, get a top 10 finish. Just get some positive traction going for your season because it has not been fun to see that 6 car.
No, it is not.
And the last 9 races here at Darlington, 9 different winners. 4 of them by Ford machines. So Ford leads all the manufacturers because Chevrolet has 3, Toyota 2, Team Penske. Martinsville was not that great of a weekend for them. They could have come out a little bit better. Didn't look that good. They still managed 2 top 10 finishes, which on the surface looks all right, but we just know if People are anticipating them. A lot of folks have picked Blaney for pick a winner. Logano could have been higher up. He did not get spun around. Cindric, Barry, battery issues. That ruined their time. So the Wood brothers, of course, they have that win this year already at Las Vegas. Josh Berry, very good at tire management. We know that. Is this a race that you anticipate a Tim Penske car in victory lane?
I have been a bit notorious thus far this season in picking Ryan Blaney. And while I do love the throwback scheme, because I remember watching that 2006 Xfinity Series race, then Busch Series, where his father, Dave, outdueled Matt Kenseth in that Haas Avocado car. So it's a really cool throwback, but Ryan Blaney has just had a tough time here these past few years, and I don't really know why. Something about how he tangos with the lady in black she just really doesn't like. So I don't really have a whole lot of high hopes and expectations for the 12 team this weekend, but someone like Barry, who did display a bit of success here in the Xfinity Series, I could totally see him having a strong run. Same with Joey Logano. Joey Logano obviously has won here in the past, including the 2022 spring race where he did not take kindly to William Byron putting him in the fence on the restart, and when he finally caught back up to him, he really let him have it. So I could definitely see Logano and Paul Wolfe definitely engineering a strong car and potentially competing for the win. Austin Cindric, I don't really have a whole lot of expectations for that two team coming to a track like this. Austin hasn't really shown me that he has the patience or the discipline this season to really compete at this kind of a track. So if he does surprise and perform this week, I would be relatively shocked. So don't expect the 12 and the 2 to really compete, and it's not anything against the 12 team. Let me just stress that enough. I think that they bring a very fast car to the track every week. It's just there's something wrong with the energy between them and this racetrack recently that just does not give me confidence that they'll put in a strong performance despite their best efforts. But the 22 and the 21, I would not be surprised to see them up at the front at some point in this event.
Those two up towards the front, I think that's a given. I overall feel Penske, they have the speed. It's just the luck that has not been there. That has been something else for them. Barry, same way, the luck as well too. Just the last two race weekends, pit road issues has snake bit them. If Logano has a good race, uneventful, I think he's going to have a good handling car.
More
Austin Cindric, I feel, is just. I'm not sold yet, but I would not be surprised if he is running top 5, top 10 all day. It's just this lady in black, we just knows, especially during the restarts, you could get caught up in trouble, exit in turn 2, have several cars collected, because if you're side by side and you're coming out of 2, you could get pinched into that wall and calamity will occur. Let's go to the chat room. I have a question. If Ty Gibbs does not do better this year, will he get traded or will he stay with his grandpa's team? I think he'll stay at his grandpa's team. I think that's a safe bet. If anything, I'm more anticipating a crew chief change, but they got a new crew chief. I think that's also just a bit of a mistake too, to rush into it. And he just needs a little bit more time. Tanner?
I think it would be profoundly unwise for JGR to get rid of a potential owner of this team within the next decade, probably. Not only that, I do agree with you, Joe, that, and I've brought this up a number of times, that they do have a rookie crew chief in Tyler Allen, and though the results haven't exactly yielded great returns just yet, you've definitely got to at least give him till midseason as a crew chief to really find his footing. And if they really haven't found their way by then by all means move on, like Jimmy Johnson did with either Kevin or Jeff Meandering, don't remember which one it was, and then moving on to Cliff Daniels. So we have seen these midseason swaps produce great turnout. So it's not to say that Ty Gibbs, and his new crew chief can't ever gel, but it has been shown that if they don't, you can jump ship to somebody new and make lemonade out of lemons. So definitely a wait and see game for that 54 team, but I would not imagine that they're going to move on from Ty at any point anytime soon.
That would be a big shock if they were to do such a move. Like I said, I think it's just way too early. Also, I do want to see Eric Jones do good in this race. I know he has 2 wins at this track, but I really hope he does good. Well, let's talk about Eric Jones. Legacy Motor Club has made news twice since Sunday. They get disqualified. That's honestly not a good start to your week. And then, besides being disqualified from the Cookout 400 in Martinsville, Legacy news yesterday, they are suing Rick Ware Racing over a charter sale, lack of a charter sale apparently, which will be interesting to thought that Legacy up to 3 full-time teams. They seem to be losing steam lately. I mean, John Hunter Nemechek had 2 solid runs in the beginning of the year, was in the top 16. Now he's still within there, but it seems like he's losing steam. Eric Jones, we thought this would be a better year, second year with Toyota. Hasn't looked that good. Obviously, a disqualification is not good at all. Do you anticipate Jones being a top 10 contender? And if not, is that any sign of Legacy's and they're struggling again? Or is this maybe too early, like what we talked about with Ty Gibbs?
I think a top 15 might be a bit more of an attainable goal for Legacy Motor Club with the 43 car this weekend. It's nothing to do with Eric Jones himself. I think he is a very great race car driver. He's obviously proven himself twice here in the past at this particular track. And it would not surprise me if he was able to climb his way into the top 10, especially if, the latter half of the event gets a bit scatterbrained, we'll say. But at the end of the day, I think that Legacy Motor Club is still an ascending organization in that they were very much at the very bottom last year. So the only place to go was up. And I definitely think that they're not like the worst team in the sport like they were last year, which, again, as we've discussed on a number of occasions, they came into last season without a single note going into the year with the new Toyota body. They didn't have an alliance with any of the Toyota teams. So they kind of came into the season with no notebook and kind of winged it more or less. And now that they have a bit more of a playbook to go off of going into each race weekend, I suspect that they will enter each week that they come to a track that they've been at before with more speed than they had last year. But again, as we've discussed, this series with the spec cars now, it's a bit more of a titanic effort to go from being 30th to 22nd. So I definitely think that Legacy Motor Club is still on the ascent, but I think a top 10 might be a little bit too ambitious, but a top 15 is certainly not out of the question. And I know that those don't sound like, two entirely different things, but they pay out very differently. And I just think that going into the latter half of a race, I could see Legacy start to filter up towards the front in the event rather than sinking back. And let's not forget before we move on that John Hunter Nemechek in his first race here back in 2020 in the Cup Series when he was with Front Row, and I know a lot of people forget about that era of time, he got a top 10 here, and it really elevated his profile as a Cup driver to a lot of people. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if maybe he pulls off a, Cinderella run of sorts to a top 15 or a top 10. So keep an eye out on that.
Definitely worth keeping an eye on in the standings as it shows. Nemechek 18th, 11 points out. He was in there, but now trying to get back in will be something else for him and that legacy team in the chat room. J Dog hoping a John Hunter top 5. That would be huge. I
That would
think
be wild.
they would have to treat that sort of like a win because
Absolutely.
the last few weekends, nothing. Atlanta, Daytona, it's so hard to say, oh, look where we are as a team because, yeah, part of it could be, well, who got caught up in a crash, who got in trouble. Anybody could really win those races. Denver in the chat. Welcome, Denver. Since Trackhouse doesn't have SVG, could Trackhouse pay respect to SVG's supercar career by introducing supercar throwback scheme? If, yeah, he doesn't have a throwback scheme, I don't believe. I know last year he had the Marcus Ambrose
Oh yeah, he
throwback
did in the
scheme,
'97. Yeah, that
the
was
97. That would have
iconic.
been great to see. I mean, he has Red Bull sponsorship too, so that could have been pretty cool to see a Red Bull Ample Racing inspired theme. That could always be something in the future too. And don't forget, Shane Van Gisberg has also done Rally 2, World Rally 2 scheme. That could be pretty creative. That'd be really interesting to see if in the future some sort of paint scheme like that will appear. And we encourage everyone, since you're watching, comment in the chat room your favorite paint scheme of the throwback weekend. Tanner and I'd be happy to discuss, see what we think of it as well. One driver I think a lot of people are looking at, and I think a little bit under the radar, especially looking at some of the DraftKings numbers, has to be Chase Briscoe. He won the Southern 500 here the last time we were out here, plus 1,500. I feel like that's a really good deal. He is now with the 19 team. Martin Truex Jr. has taken that team to victory lane here in Darlington. Joe Gibbs Racing. Last weekend on Martinsville, all 4 cars looking really strong. Do you think, though, when it comes down to it, if we have Chase Briscoe plus his teammates, all of them, including Ty Gibbs, do you think he could outperform and outrace them, especially a driver like Denny Hamlin, who is so good at Darlington?
I don't think he's outracing Denny or Bell at their current rate, but it's not even about that necessarily all the time. It could be a thing where the 11 and 20 have better cars, but they don't have better track position or don't have better tires at the end of the race than perhaps their teammate. So at the end of the day, I could see JGR really stepping into their own this week. I think, again, it's important to remember that Chris Gabehart is the wizard now behind all of the JGR cars. He is the competition director, and he always brought Denny Hamlin a missile to Darlington, South Carolina. So it really wouldn't surprise me if all 4 of the Gibbs cars this week come in with a lot of speed and really are stout. So I could definitely see that 19 team coming in with a lot of speed and getting a lot of stage points, maybe even contending for the win. But he's got to contend with his teammates, and no one's on a hotter streak right now than Christopher Bell, and to a lesser extent, Denny Hamlin. The guy really put it on a flag last week and planted it in the ground, saying that it's 11 against the world, and you've definitely got to respect that, as he is coming into one of his best tracks at Darlington. So as much as Briscoe should be coming into this weekend with a lot of confidence that his 19 team could have a good run, I also still need to see more out of James Small in terms of keeping up with this track and with his driver. So to me, if the 19 team and Chase Briscoe can put together a great performance this weekend, I would not be surprised if they come away with a victory and a playoff spot after a very dour first month of the season.
It's going to be interesting to see how Briscoe can perform. I have an idea. If Briscoe is to qualify in the top 10, he could easily do what a lot of people have said with Darlington: race the racetrack, race your own race. If he's in the top 10, he knows he's very likely to get stage points. You're not trying to rush to the top 10 to get those points. You're already in there. Any other points is great. Your pit stops, that might be where, okay, that's going to be the test of that team. What could they do in the pit stops? But if he stays up there and stays out of trouble, especially on those restarts, he could put himself in a good spot. And I think the other thing too, don't get desperate if you are leading and okay, here comes a car that's going to make a move. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to make contact and ruin both each other's races. I think of Bristol, him and Reddick. Those two, Bristol dirt. You could have just settled with that second place finish. I get it, winning you're in, but that didn't pay off.
Well, see, that's the thing. He had a win already at that point in the season, so Correct. It really didn't make any sense. He had won Phoenix a few weeks before, and then he did the same thing in the 600 less than a month later. So he does have a bit of a habit of pushing it to the edge and then falling over it. So hopefully with better equipment, that won't be as much of an issue. But, it's kind of like taming a wild horse. It's really difficult.
It's difficult, and I get it. I mean, I'm glad you brought up that he did win because I couldn't remember if it was like the year before he won or the year after, but that same year, you got to win, get a second place. That's 40 plus points you lost from going from second to much lower in the finishing order. Really, it's like if you could just put it all together, keep your head cool when you get past, and you got to make that position up. Trust your team, trust your crew chief. They can make the car better for you, especially a late restart, or should I say even overtime. And you have to, because unless you only did 2 laps and then you go in overtime, everyone's going to be talking about changing tires, because this is definitely a track you're not going to see drivers, I think, stay out on old tires late in the run, deep in the run.
I wouldn't recommend it. I would not recommend it.
Would not recommend it. I mean, even back in the day where, okay, you get a restart with 5 laps to go and you could stay out and hope the caution comes out behind you and you're still up ahead. But now in the era of overtime, that just don't work. You could be easily tossed around for overtime.
Not with unlimited overtimes, no.
Exactly. In the chat room in Denver, if I was SVG, I would ask Trackhouse for a throwback scheme to his first Bathurst 1000 win with his co-driver name on it as well. That would be a really nice touch to include the co-driver's name on the signature panel. And yeah, that could be really good. I mean, the supercars, they don't have car numbers as sponsors. You just put it behind the 88 right now. I think that would be really good. And then J-Dog, best scheme to me is the 5-car. Of course, the 5-car running the Terry Labonte Kellogg scheme, which has won the Southern 500. I don't know if you saw, Tanner, there was online. They showed the hood. We all remember that scheme. The hood had the rooster from Kellogg's Cornflakes, and it said, "Got milk." I saw somebody had made one with a cartoon Rick Hendrick, and it said, "Got cars." And I was like, oh, that was a missed opportunity for them to not do that. Do you have a favorite paint scheme from the Throwback Weekend, Tanner?
I definitely lean towards the nostalgia for that 2003 number 5 scheme, even though my favorite driver at the time lost to it. But yeah, I was a big Terry Labonte fan growing up, so it's definitely very, very faithful for as much as a next-gen throwback can be, with the number being moved forward. And believe me, I'm not trying to get into an argument about that, so please don't get mad at me for even mentioning it. But yeah, I definitely think that one stands out. And William Byron's 2015 throwback to Jeff Gordon's farewell tour was definitely a really nice touch, but I still have to lean towards Blaney's Haas Avocado throwback to his dad's Busch Series victory. I think that even though the colors don't really match up, necessarily. I still think overall it's a really cool scheme and allows the partner brand Dutch Boy to kind of show off their different paints that they offer. So all in all, I think that one's my favorite, but I still think the best is probably that 5 car.
I just put on the link on the chat room so all our viewers can see. There's a link to the NASCAR.com, all the throwback schemes there. When it comes to my favorite, I have to say, I think one of my favorites, just because it's so cool to see, is Denny Hamlin's throwback to Carl Edwards. We all know Carl Edwards, Hall of Fame, all that. Denny Hamlin raced against Carl Edwards to see that Office Depot 99 color on the sports clip car. That looks so good in my opinion. That almost looks like a modern day paint scheme. I just think that really shines well.
And I like the Patty Moist throwback that Ty Dillon's doing. I think that's a really neat thing that's happening.
Patty Moise?
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
That is a really good paint scheme to highlight. I think overall, this is one of the better years for the Cubs because I felt sometimes, especially since this race moved the throwback from the Southern 500 to this race and with Fox coverage, I sometimes feels a little lackluster compared to the big Southern 500 affair. But of course, I get it. If you're the first race of the playoffs, you want all the attention on the playoffs and not, oh, and look at these throwback schemes because they may not be able to give the proper attention to each scheme. Quickly share with everyone the NASCAR page since we can. It's Throwback Weekend here. Austin Cindric.
It's cool.
It's all right. This one sort of surprised me. It is Throwback Honoring Junior. I first thought it was Neil Bonnet, the car that went flipping in at Talladega, the old mom and pops.
Yeah, but it's I believe it's a throwback to Junior's 97 Xfinity car. I mean, there's a link there between, Gragson being a former JRM driver. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's on a Ford, so it looks kind of weird. Obviously, the Larson one's great. This one's loser. Big L on this one by UniFirst. Doesn't even look like the other car that it's supposed to be homaging. So, yeah, we can just go ahead and pass that one by.
I'd like Ken Schrader, but yeah, it's like if all the paint schemes that one does not. There's a Patty Moise 1989.
Very cool. That one, as we discussed, is really sweet.
Yep. There's Blaney.
Pretty cool.
Avocado car. I think I really like how the Penske teams even are changing the number font. I think that's an added bonus to them.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. The 20 car, I mean, I think it's probably got more sentimental meaning to Christopher Bell than it's supposed to look good. So I'll give him points for that. This looks cool. Big fan of this. Jim Clark throwback.
Really cool for the Wood Brothers to sort of remind everyone, hey, we got this win. We're having a pretty decent start to the year. Don't forget, we won the Indy 500 too as a pit crew. It's like they were pioneers for that. This was a surprise. The Cale Yarborough inspired theme for Joey Logano.
Well, first 3-time champ in the playoff format, so he's throwing back to the 3 in a row guy, and he's got double the number. So I guess there's a little bit of pathway there to make that make sense.
Wouldn't that be interesting? 11 won last weekend, 22 this weekend. The 33, I don't know.
Oh well, Jesse Love is next week. He is in the race. He is in the race next week, so it's not impossible. Byron's, as we discussed, is awesome. Looks very good. Is this a Junior Johnson? Well, I guess
Raymond Fox.
Yeah, it's his car, so I guess that makes sense. It's cool. Like, it's old. It's cool.
Yeah, overall, I like that. This one is like, again, didn't they do this once before, the throwback Long John Silver?
I don't think it was this exact theming, but yeah, they've definitely thrown back with long johns before. The next one's kind of cool. It's a Jimmy Spencer, Casey Mears era throwback. I think that's pretty cool. It's about all you can do with what they have the sponsorship. This one's great. Big fan of this one. And frankly, I hope Jimmy just wises up and says, let's just make this the number font for this car, because it's classic. It throws back to Kyle Petty to an extent, because that's where this number font and styling came from. And again, it is Legacy Motor Club. The Petty family is still heavily involved as some part of the team. So it not only touches on that, but touches to John Hunter's dad, Joe, when he raced for Sabco back in the 90s. So all around a really great effort from Dollar Tree and the Legacy crew there. Now, we're going to go right to the next one, and that one's bad. Because, like, how are you Richard Petty and you can't even get STP to come back for this race? So unfortunate. But, I mean, they hit all the other notes of it being John Andretti's car, so I guess I can't be too upset. I love Wawa. This is a faithful throwback, but I don't really get it. I don't get what J.J. Yaley sees in Bill Elliott, but whatever.
I'm thinking the color schemes with Wawa is the primary sell. So
this one's cool. It's a throwback to the 200th win.
Yeah, throwback for the team, and then the
Ward
Burton 51. Then it goes to the Xfinities, and of course the Truck Series. We encourage everyone check it out on NASCAR.com. Overall, Darlington, this track is going to test everybody, all the teams, all the drivers, all the crews. Let's talk about we've talked quite a bit about, especially in the chat room, Trackhouse Racing. Let's throw in there 2311. And also, I guess maybe, why not? Let's throw in there Roush Fenway, Keselowski, RFK Racing. All of them expanded to 3 teams. Oh, don't forget Front Row as well, too. 3 teams, so 4 teams. So those teams, you look at Shane Van Gisbergen and Riley Herbst. They're both rookies and brand new teams. They're just not having a good weekend, I don't think. I'll be shocked if Riley Herbst could finish in the top 10. I know Shane Van Gisbergen did well here last year in the Xfinity Series, but Cup Series, that team is just not looking good. And Herbst still leads Shane Van Gisbergen by 9 points in the Rookie of the Year standing. Overall, especially with those 2 rookies, is Darlington a track where you anticipate a rough race and not a top 10 type performance?
If either of them got a top 10, I would be profoundly impressed and surprised. And I don't think I really need to say much more. They were not fast at either Homestead or Las Vegas, which have a similarly rough, surface to them. And now, granted, I did mention, as far as Vegas is concerned, I think the reason SVG lost all those tires was clearly a setup issue. But at the end of the day, they don't have the laps or the on-track experience at either, for either of these drivers to really compete. I haven't really seen since that 2022 spring race where Ross Chastain probably had the best car in that Dale Jr. Japan throwback. I haven't really seen that team have a tremendous amount of pace at Darlington, not the pace that you would really like to see. So I can't really imagine their third car, that is effectively the 71 Spire team from last year. I can't really see that squad producing a fast enough car for a guy that doesn't really have a whole, it doesn't really have a bevy of oval experience at quite possibly our hardest oval. And for Herbst, I think that he stands a better chance simply because he has more laps here, and both of his teammates have had very recent strong runs at Darlington. In fact, last year, Bubba Wallace sat on the pole for the Southern 500 in the summer, And Reddick, as we discussed earlier, had an extremely strong run in the spring. So I think of the two, Herbst has a better chance of having a good run, but if I have to go off of what I've seen thus far this year, I can't really imagine either of them having a great day.
A great day would be thinking of what we said about Darlington, log the laps, race the racetrack, bring the car home in one piece. The Darlington Stripe, don't be intimidated by it. Everyone's going to get it. It's just the way it goes, and this beast of a track, the Lady in Black, you just have to run that high line. You're going to be kind of close. And for rookies, yeah, winning at Darlington for your first career win is not something that has been done on a regular basis at all. And the favorites, Larson, of course, the drivers that know how to win here. I'm really curious if we will have a 10th different winner. That would be very amazing for this track and the series, I think, to have different winners. With that said, it's time for picking the winner of the race. Pick a winner, and here is the full standings. Comment in the chat room with who do you think is going to win the Goodyear 400 at Darlington. You get it correct, you get on the leaderboard. We still have over 150 races throughout the grid ranking, so still plenty of time to catch up to Matt White, Matt Bro, because they'll be commenting. And of course, starting with the next MotoGP race, Kiska will be back on the leaderboard, going with Marc Marquez for every race in MotoGP. So that's the baseline. So it will be interesting.
She probably calls him Bark Marquez.
Bark Marquez. Last year was Max Verstappen. We just saw it was going to be Max Verstappen year, but only got what? 7 plus a sprint race, so 8 total. Let's see what will happen with Marc Marquez, because they still got over 30 races, counting all those sprint races. With that said, Tanner, for the Goodyear 400, who do you see winning that race?
I touched upon him earlier when we were talking about Chase Briscoe, because he is one of his teammates, and many of you know him from his famous Bristol speech from 2023 saying that he beat your favorite driver. And now that he has moved on from All In, he is now all against the world with the 11 team. I believe that Mr. Action's Detrimental, Denny Hamlin, will be making it a back-to-back trip to victory lane by going the distance in the Goodyear 400. I see that Sports Clips scheme that's harkening back to Carl Edwards. I think that he will honor it very, very well and go to victory lane this weekend and really plant JGR's flag going forward this season with their 5th victory in the first 8 races.
I too am going with a Joe Gibbs Toyota as well, but I'm not going with Denny Hamlin. I'm going to go with a surprise winner, I think, for some, breaking the streak, so there won't be a 10th different winner. I'm going with Chase Briscoe. I think he's going to make it 2 consecutive Darlington wins, the Sun 500 and now the Goodyear 400. The big key for him to make that possible, you got to qualify in the top 10. I'm afraid if he's further back, it's going to be a much harder ordeal to try to work his way to the front. They have the speed in that car. He should have the confidence in the pit crew in James Small to just let them do the work. You focus on racing the racetrack, they'll take care of you, and they'll be in victory lane. Chase Briscoe, my pick-a-winner pick for the Goodyear 400. And of course, as well as NASCAR, we also have Formula One at Japan. Do you have a pick already for Japan to share, or you're still determining? Especially,
I'm gonna go all out. Yuki Tsunoda is gonna win.
What? Yuki Tsunoda?
I'm calling it now. I'm planting the flag. Yuki will win this weekend in his home race, and it'll be the firmest affirmation possible that he is clearly capable of riding in this Red Bull. Apparently in the sim over the past couple weeks, he has said that he didn't really find the car tremendously difficult to handle. And that's saying something considering that Max Verstappen, who they built the car around, is having trouble with it. So I think that it could be a very, very big weekend for a guy that's been qualifying very, very well thus far in a car that's clearly not as good as the Red Bull is supposed to be. So I'm willing to go out on a limb very early this year and say that Yuki wins this weekend. And it'll be a very, very, very big to do, I think, for the F1 community when it happens.
That would be a massive upset. Checking out what DraftKings have Yuki at for Suzuka. And of course, this is pre-qualifying and everything. Formula One, Yuki Tsunoda, he is not far. Plus 1, 2, 3, plus 5,000 to win.
50 to 1? I mean, I'll take that.
Lando Norris at plus 160 is the favorite ahead of Oscar Piastri. That would be huge. I think for F1, I'm going with a McLaren. I think I will stick with Oscar Piastri, though. Again, 2 in a row.
I could definitely see that happening. I think he, as I mentioned on our last conversation with Emily Sharp, that I think that Oscar is the better driver there, and if he were to get a second win this early, that would really cement it, I think. But Lando's also right there, so it's not completely out of the realm that he wins either.
Not completely out of the realm. A lot of potential in the chat room. Denver, Chastain will win, but I'm going to give SCG year off to settle into the oval. Life expect road course, but expect to compete hard. And also, if I was NASCAR, I'll bring back the Peter Brock Holden Toronto RX9 scheme. That is a very good scheme as well, too. And then we're going with Oscar, your Japan winner. But Yuki needs a hope and a prayer to win. I'm putting my money to crash out.
Dang. Oof. Okay, hold on now. He's finished every race that he's run there since 2022. I think that's a little bit out of the realm, in my opinion. But I do respect your opinion, Denver, that, I mean, it's entirely possible. He's a very aggressive driver, and in a more aggressive car, I think that could be a good thing. And obviously I think it will be, but I could also see your side of it, that it could be a downside.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens at Japan with Yuki. A lot of eyes on him. I think somebody in the chat yesterday during Grid Tonight said something similar about crashing out, but we'll figure it out. The weather, all that, the preview, and of course, subscribe and hit the bell icon because it's not Saturday, noon Eastern. It's going to be late Saturday or early Sunday morning, depending on your time zone. It is the Grid Live After Dark show for the Japanese Grand Prix. Hit that bell icon because you don't want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got the team all lined up for it. You don't want to miss it out. It's going to be a fun show. Going to preview 2 hours before the race. So by the time we go off the air, you could tune in to the pre-race show on F1 TV or your local Sky Sports, ESPN, whatever streaming service you use. You could tune in after Grid Live pre-race, after dark. Going to be a fun weekend. Of course, we'll do this all over again with the wrap-up show on Sunday, 90 minutes after Darlington. Then Grid Encore on the air. Ben will be on the air. I got to say, Tanner, that was a fun show. I'm trying to remember, was it Amber that said the cuckoo clock?
Yes.
Oh, my God. I was driving, and when I heard that, I just died laughing.
So. That was a particularly good moment. And
oh my goodness.
Thank you. I believe it was Matt Owens that Ben was referencing that had the initial take that the Martinsville grandfather clock should not be the uniform trophy for all 3 series. So though I disagreed with him, I do think that question definitely produced a very, very good moment.
Well, something else, Grid Encore Monday. And then, of course, Wednesday, Grid Tonight, the latest motorsports news. and women in motorsports as well, recapping about all the female athletes in motorsports. And a big thank you to all our Patreon investors, Colin, the show, Mark, Robin, David, Matthew, for investing in the Grid Network each and every month. Link in the video description. Invest in our Grid Network. We've been posting a lot on social media, including our brand new website, gridnetworktv.com. See the full team there. We got the profiles linked to their websites as well. Gridnetworktv.com also will have the NASCAR recaps from Matthew Bro, Formula One Academy recaps, and much, much more throughout 2025. And of course, across social media, we also have the Grid Endurance Performance Index got released, and Sunday, the Grid Ranking Week 1 will be released. Busy times here at the Grid Network, but we do this all for you, the viewers, and the fans, because we all love motorsports. For Tanner, I'm Joe. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.